Hi, my name is Marcus, and I am the host of Comic Corner. Along with my co-host Mason, we bring the kingdom of geekdom to light, or to darkness. Join us as we talk about heroes, villains, myths, and more things nerdy. Listen to us every Wednesday at 8 on Spotify. Brought to you by Gateway Pro Productions.
In a world with pain and destruction, we need a hero. Who will be that hero? Gateway Pro presents an old podcast, The Joe Show. Whoa. Wrong ad. Let's try that again. Hey guys, my name is Joe and I'm the host of The Joe Show podcast. On my show, we talk about anything and everything except politics. You will never know what we'll be talking about on our show, so you should definitely tune in. Join my boy Marcus and my brother Mason as we talk about food, superheroes, and those are just some of our simple topics. Sometimes we can get a little complex and talk about the difference between wisdom and knowledge. You never know what we're going to be talking about on the Joe Show. Even though we have a plethora of topics to talk about, our goal is to entertain you, the listener. So check us out on social media at Gateway Pro on Facebook, The Joe Show on Reddit, The Joe Show 2020 on TikTok, and The Joe Show _20 on Instagram. You can also find us Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Join us every Monday at 8 o'clock.
On July 22nd, 2015, 5 people were stabbed to death at a family home in Oklahoma. These victims included children as young as the age of 5. Investigators started looking for suspects, and you're not going to believe who was really responsible for the bloody stabbing of this family. This is the Broken Arrow murders.
Negative K, nothing further, just Kitty Camp in the corner. We've got a code 187. Officers on the scene.
Hey guys, you guys are listening to Code 187. Hello, my name is Joe and I'm joined here with my co-host Sarah. On this show, we just talk about true crimes and our love for true crimes and mysteries and things like that. And we try to make it a little lighthearted. Sarah, you want to tell them where they can find us?
Yeah, we're on pretty much every social media platform: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok under code 187.
Super simple and easy to know and learn. And we also will be airing every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. And you guys should hit that follow button on all our platforms so you can get all of Code 187's content. Because there's just not Sarah and I. Sarah does so many other cases that'll blow your mind. So, yeah, smash that follow button. I want to say smash that like button because I watch too many YouTubes. So,
and I forgot to mention our YouTube channel. So I do videos too on YouTube, but I will be posting these podcast episodes as well. I always forget YouTube. I don't know why.
Yeah, isn't that like the big platform too?
It is. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So, with this, I was listening to that intro, right? And I was like, okay, I'm waiting to hear the name of the person. And you said murders. So we have multiple murders in this case.
Yes, and I wondered if you knew this one, because it's a little bit more popular, but I really haven't seen a lot of it on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a family who was all murdered.
Good Lord. So,
yes.
You keep doing this. You know, it's like you make me mad one episode, you make me get real excited and sad in another episode. Now we're blowing up here with a family now. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Well, let's get right into it. I'm ready to hear about these people.
Okay, so the police who responded to this scene in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, found 5 dead victims, 1 seriously injured victim, and 1 unharmed.
Gotcha.
So I have the list of the victim, how old they were, and then their injuries.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go through all of them first, and
Okay.
then we'll talk about what happened.
Gotcha.
So the first was David Beaver. He is 52 and he was the father.
Okay.
He was killed by at least 28 stab wounds to the torso, face, neck, and left arm and hand,
Okay.
which was probably defensive wounds,
Mhm.
assuming he was left-handed. April Beaver, who is the mother, she was 42. She was killed by blunt force trauma and more than 48 wounds to the head, neck, torso, arms, and hands. So these victims they were trying to fight off their killers. They had a lot of where they were trying to stop it.
Gotcha.
The next one we have is Daniel Beaver. He was 12 years old. He is one of the sons, and he was killed by 21 stab wounds
Okay.
to the back, shoulder, and chest. Then we have Christopher Beaver, who is 7. He is the son. He was killed by 21 stab wounds to the back, chest, shoulder, and lower leg. Then we have Victoria Beaver. She was 5 years old.
Okay.
She is one of the daughters. She was killed by 23 stab wounds to both sides of her neck, her chest, back, and upper arm. Then we have Crystal Beaver, who was 13. She was the daughter. She was injured, but not killed, by a slit throat and stab wounds to the stomach and arms. And then 1 unharmed child who was 2.
Mm-hmm.
She was a daughter. Her name was Autumn, and she was sleeping in her room when all of this happened.
So the victim probably didn't know where she was.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know if you guys heard, but that seems like it was a lot of overkill.
Yes,
With-
very much.
Yeah, with these victims, because all those stab wounds and things like that, and then the survivor stabbed to the neck and then to the torso with the stomach. Actually, I was at Crackle Barrel and I saw a lady who had a marking on her neck. And
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really bad, and I was wondering how she survived that. But that's who I instantly thought of when you said that. So somebody just really didn't like this family.
Yeah, there was definitely, this was hate-filled.
Yes.
This was rage, and you're really not going to believe who did this.
It wasn't the 2-year-old, was it?
The what? What'd you say?
I said it wasn't the 2-year-old, was it?
No,
Okay.
It wasn't the 2-year-old.
Okay, all right. I just had to throw that guess out there.
Yeah, so it was the 2-year-old. So I guess we'll get into who's responsible. Are you
Okay.
ready?
I don't think I am, but let's go.
All right. So this stabbing, it was very bloody and it was a horrific scene.
hmm
But right away, they knew who was responsible. Michael and Robert Beaver, the couple's oldest sons.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Okay. I'm gonna let you finish reading. 'Cause I'm gonna be like, so what was their motive?
Right. Okay. So Michael and Robert Beaver was the oldest sons. Robert Beaver was 18
Okay.
and his younger brother Michael was 16 at the time.
hmm
Now, you said, when I was reading off the victims, you said that Autumn, the 2-year-old, they must have not known she was there.
Okay.
They did
Okay.
because they were in the house. But there's a reason they hadn't got to her yet.
Okay. So we're doing
Yeah.
some like Michael Myers kind of stuff here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm gonna kill the whole family, and I accidentally forgot one, but now I'm coming back for her, kind of a deal. Okay, okay.
Right. Yeah, this is scary because like this is people in your household. This is people you trust and you sleep by every night. Like
Yes,
that's almost more terrifying than a stranger to me.
yes, because I mean, it's one of those. I was thinking about this, like just when we sleep, we are we're so trusting into whoever's in the house because you're sleeping, you're not unconscious, but you're not in your full state of mind, and just to even wake up to just any of that, and somebody had to wake up in the middle of them being stabbed and seeing the face of the, oh my gosh, no.
Right. Well, what's interesting was they were all awake when this happened. Now, what we normally see is like waiting till the night because you
Yes.
have more opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, these two boys were so rage filled that they didn't care. They just took the first opportunity they could.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which is which isn't very good at all because there's no planning or anything with that either.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. So, on the night of July 22nd, the boys, and this is in 2015, the boys' 13-year-old sister Crystal walked by their room. They told her they wanted to show her something on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal entered the room toward where Michael was sitting, and then without warning, Robert grabbed her, covered her mouth, and slit her throat. So, however, Crystal's wound wasn't fatal, so
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't dead yet, and she screamed
Mm-hmm.
to warn the rest of the family that this attack was coming.
Yes.
Um, so then the boys stabbed their mother, who came in to help Crystal, and they stabbed her over 40 times.
Now this is as it's going on because I was thinking it was like they were picking them off one by one. So it was like because before when you were explaining, I thought okay they were sleeping, and then they went to one person however many times, and then went to another person how many times. But this is like happening in real life where they see her cut her throat. Mom walks in, gets her, stab, stab, stab. Who's next?
Right. And so when, of course, your daughter screams,
Mm-hmm.
everyone's going to come running.
Yes.
So then they just have this opportunity to just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Which is super sad.
Yeah.
So Michael and Robert eventually killed the mother with blunt force trauma.
Mm-hmm.
The boys then stabbed their father over 50 times, their 12-year-old brother 9 times, their 7-year-old brother 6 times, and their 5-year-old sister 18 times, mostly in the neck.
Yeah.
In the end, they killed 5 family members and seriously injured another.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And because I've been hearing a lot of serial killers, not just recently, but older, the knife is really one of those ones. It's really quick. You really don't think about how quick of a kill that is, and how fast we as humans are, So it's just like, really quick. Oh man, just picturing all this, and I have a very vivid imagination, so I'm picturing all this like, good Lord.
Yeah. And hopefully I'm giving you a good picture of it because when I was reading it, I was just getting flashes of all of this happen.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, when you said about the knife, it's a very personal thing when you stab someone because you can't be removed from it. You are attached to that and you're up close and personal. And so they had some kind of vendetta or rage, something built up so much to do this. All right, so this is where it just gets so scary for me. So the 12-year-old brother Daniel was able to call 911.
Okay.
He told the operator, "My brother's attacking my family," and reportedly said to someone who was in the room, "Please don't murder me." which just makes me so sad. A deeper male voice said hello, and then the operator heard screaming and crying before the line went dead. So, the first family member the boys attacked, Crystal, she lived.
Yes.
Although her brothers cut her throat, she managed to run outside where she passed out on the front lawn. Her brothers assumed she was dead and dragged her back inside so they could dismember her along with the rest of the family. She recalled hearing her younger siblings screaming inside the house. She played dead until she heard an officer break down the front door and carry her to safety. So these boys had a plan. It was kind of planned.
Yes.
To kill all of these people and dismember them. And when Crystal tried to get away, they went after her, which I'm just like, the neighbors probably heard all of this happen too. So, it's just crazy.
And you know what it was? It's one of those things too where it's people might see something happen, but then they, especially nowadays, if they see something happen, and a lot of us is like, that's none of my business, you know. I'm not going to deal with that. And so that might have been something that went on too. But I mean, if you do, so what I pictured was when she ran out, she's got to be holding her neck in order to stop the bleeding. And then she falls on the ground, passed out. And then I picture the brothers going out there, you know, not even just brutally grabbing her by the ankles and kind of just dragging her back in. So, I mean, that is a little suspicious, unless, you know, you might have some crazy neighbors and you might think, oh, that's just how they work, you know. I don't know.
Right, and you got to think this wasn't the middle of the night either.
Yeah.
I don't know the time of it, but I know they were all awake.
Yep.
So it couldn't have been, you know, and some of these were pretty young, so before 8, I would say probably.
Yep.
But yes, you're right. We do see that a lot with like domestic violence victims too, is neighbors will hear stuff and just be like, oh, that's none of my business. I'm not going to call it in.
Yeah, and that's even something, you know, because like if I said that something like that happened like in the 50s or something, 50s or 60s with domestic violence, you're probably like, oh yeah, that happened all the time. But nowadays, where people are talking about it a lot more, you know, I mean, if you see something, say something is
exactly
what we should be doing out here.
Yeah. And so this girl, Crystal, survives, and a lot of it is her testimony on what happened.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, the younger brother's call to 911. He said, my brothers are killing me. So that's how the police knew right away. Oh, this is these two kids.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now, do we know if these kids had any record, or were they bad kids, or like?
No, but there was signs.
Yeah.
There was definitely signs something was going to happen. I don't want to give away too much, but yes, there was signs. But they didn't have like a criminal arrest record or anything.
Gotcha. If I start getting ahead of myself, just tell me to shut up, and I will.
That's okay. I know your questions are probably what everyone is thinking. So that gives me a good idea of what to say.
Okay.
All right. So the other survivor was the 2-year-old girl. And according to the boys, they intended to cut off the toddler's head with an axe. But they didn't have time before they had to flee, because with the 911 call, this was rushed more than they had planned. This little girl was completely unharmed, and she was safe in the other room. Didn't know anything happened. So when the cops came, the brothers escaped from the back of the house, and they went into a wooded area near their house. Police K-9 units quickly found them and apprehended them. Robert was armed with a knife, but he gave up peacefully. When they were questioned by the police, the boys admitted they intended to dismember their family and put them in the attic. They would then grab their ammo, their weapons, and steal the family car. They planned to go on a mass shooting spree in as many locations as possible. The boys planned to go to different cities outside of Oklahoma and kill people in each one. Their goal was to kill as many as 100 people.
Now, what was their problem? Like, what is your motive? Okay. So when we were talking about this earlier, and we were talking about how they were going around killing their family, I thought, okay, mom and dad, something with the family, that's why they want to kill them. But now you're going on, you're trying to go on mass shootings and mass killings. Like, come on, there's something else. Well, we talk about murders. There's always something wrong with them,
Yeah, exactly. And so I will say these two boys idolized mass shootings.
Okay.
And in this day and age in America, we're familiar, unfortunately, with someone just walking in and killing a bunch of people. And I think they just got it in their heads that these killers are celebrities. Their name is on the news and they're popular and like we're talking about them. So like they think they're famous.
Yes.
I'm
going to look
that was one of the motives for this.
I'm going to look up that Batman Heath Ledger shooting because I think it's if I can spell, I think it's around the same time, 2012, because that's when the Aurora shooting happened, and I think that's where a lot of stuff was starting to get big. I think it might have started around in 2008, and then because I remember that was what they were talking about in the news was that the news was glorifying these mass shooters by giving them their names and telling them their stories and things like that. And then these kids like that, they're thinking, well, that's what I want to be. And what we said, 16 and 18 were the ages. So that would have made it, 15 and 13, which are very impressionable ages there. So that's crazy. Well, I don't know why you would want to start off with your family, though.
Yeah, and I kind of lost what I was thinking, but I'll get back to it. I'm sure.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So here we go. What was the motive for their attack?
Okay.
Crystal and the two killers, Michael and Robert, said that growing up with their parents wasn't all that great. They stated that their parents would physically and psychologically abuse the children. Robert said that he felt his parents hated children, and the only reason they continued to have kids was for the tax breaks.
Gotcha.
I mean, they had a lot of kids.
Yes.
So.
How old was the dad? Was like 50?
I can go back up.
I think that's what we said.
52.
52.
And April was 42.
Yes. So that would put them at the where was I going with that? I was going somewhere with that. Okay.
Well, the oldest is 18. Were you wondering how old they were when they started?
Yeah. Well, what was I getting ready to say? I forget what I was getting ready to say.
We're just both in a brain fog today. I don't know.
Because I was getting ready to connect it. I was like, yeah, their age and then this, and that makes sense. But yeah, I know they were born in like the 60s. No, yeah, they were probably born in the 60s and 60s and 50s. So they probably got married. God, they were older when they started having their kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what I was going to say. It's going to come back to me.
Yeah. But mine came back to me. So what I was going to say earlier was with the mass shootings and stuff, these kids obviously didn't have a problem killing children.
Yes.
Which some mass shooters go for kids. Some of them go for adults. Like you see in I can't remember which one it was, but there was like elementary school age kids.
Yes.
They had no problem because they could have done a lot of damage because they had no problem killing whoever. they were going to decapitate their, you know,
Yeah.
2-year-old sister. So they were vicious.
Well, see, and my problem comes in with them is where, okay, so when we were talking about them earlier and how this was unplanned, okay, for this particular murder, it would kind of make sense that if this was unplanned and they could have got away with it,
Mhm.
that would have been fine. But now you're talking about doing mass killings now. That doesn't they're not very smart as serial killers because most of the ones we hear from, if they're going to do something, they kind of level up. They kind of start small and then they get bigger and bigger, and these guys were just like, I mean, you just can't start off right off the bat, like that. You got to work your way on up, but I don't know.
Yeah, it was almost like just like this switch flipped for them, and it was like, okay, kill everybody.
Yeah.
And they had to have known this was going to be their last thing that they did. Like they
Yes.
knew they weren't going to get away with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of, mass shooters kill themselves after, so they might have been planning that.
Again, I mean, you can even kind of tell that they were going to they knew they weren't going to get away with it because the brothers instantly surrendered and handed over his knife. He's like, this is part of the plan. I wasn't expecting it to happen this early, but and it's Oklahoma too. I don't know if it was a rural city or if it was a actual urban city, but if it was maybe in the country or a small town, just from what I'm hearing about the story, meth could have been involved.
Yeah.
Because well, it's so sporadic to me. You went from automatically jumping on your sister to killing your whole family to now you were going to go mass murder all these people, and it's just too quick for me. I think if it was like a regular serial killer or killers, they would they even though they get the high from the murders, but like I said, they do kind of build their way on up. So I'm thinking drugs were involved.
It definitely could have been.
Mhm.
One of the things I thought too was I kind of feel like the oldest brother had a little bit of an effect on that second brother,
Mm-hmm.
the 18-year-old and the 16-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the 18-year-old probably had a lot of mental illness or
Mhm.
something going on and kind of roped the younger brother into thinking it was cool.
Yep.
It doesn't say that specifically, but it does allude to that.
Yes.
So I feel I don't feel bad for him, but it does feel like he was very impressionable.
Yep.
And just wanted to impress his brother, which
Mhm.
is terrible.
And I think that is the crazy thing because, so, with their age and them having kids at a very older time, they had a different way of probably raising their kids. And it could have been psychologically and physically abusive to the first one. And then they kind of might have learned after that. But the first one could have got the worst of it. And then I'm the oldest of my siblings, and I can tell you how impressionable I am on to my siblings. So
They want to be podcasters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's I can definitely see that and see that going on. And I know when they said that when there's usually like a duo murderers, you do have one who's more dominant and then one who's more submissive. So yeah, I don't know, man. This whole thing is just crazy.
Yeah. So, of course, Crystal and Robert had said their parents just weren't that great.
Mm-hmm.
They said that they were thrown across the room on occasion and watched their father abuse their mom.
Mm-hmm.
The kids had been to school, but they were like rarely allowed to like leave the house afterwards.
Oh yeah.
They were homeschooled part of the time. And they didn't seem like much of that was happening.
Yes.
It seemed like it was kind of like, oh, we're homeschooling in
Yeah.
quotations.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that was really happening. So you're leaving these two boys to watch probably TV
Mm-hmm.
where they're seeing mass
Mm-hmm.
shootings,
Yep.
and violence.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
You know what? I think I hate this episode so much because it's one of those things. So, listening to a lot of like true crime podcasts, there are things that happened to me as a kid that basically from what they're saying is I fit the criteria of a serial killer. But
that's not good.
no, I know it's not. But by the grace of God, I am not. And then you're going down this list. You're like, they went to school, but then they weren't allowed to leave the house. They were homeschooled. Like, stop it, stop it.
Oh,
like
well,
this.
I mean, so that's not the criteria, the official criteria,
I know.
unless you're like killing small animals and
See,
things like that.
See, I don't fit a lot of that stuff. So, like, that's how I know I'm good because, I'm very closely to their, like, this has happened. This is what happened to them. This is what happened to them. I'm like, hey, that happened to me. And then it's like they killed small animals and they were really, I'm like, oh, that's not me at all. But good
Right.
God. Shoot. And I will also say, being homeschooled, it was one of those things where my mom would watch the news in the morning time. And she would watch it throughout the day. So, while we're doing school, you might hear about these shootings or something like that. And then, of course, adults, they start, since that was a big issue, around 2008, 2012, adults are talking about it. And it was kind of one of those things we were just involved in that. So they could have experienced the same thing because those were pretty big issues back then, Sandy Hook with the shooting of the kids and then the shooting in Aurora, California. Oh, no, Colorado. Sorry.
Right.
So yeah, man, this is, and it's isn't it crazy how you don't realize the domino effect? You've got people who are inspired by these people, and you don't think. I mean, well, you'll see a shooting and you don't think anybody thinks anything of it. Then somebody gets inspired by it, and then other stuff happens like this. I mean, shoot. Therapy, guys.
Yeah, there's definitely some mental illness here because just these things don't make someone go this far for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're seeing violence from a very young age because they're witnessing it with their mother, they're seeing it with their siblings. It's in their face.
Yep.
So they're getting that nature versus nurture, the nurture part. And then if you add mental illness, that's nature. So you're just like, it's a tornado of something's going to happen.
Yes. And then also, too, with the parents being, I know I keep talking about them being older, but the older generation, a lot of them don't believe in mental illness. So even if their child, the 18 or 16-year-old even said anything about them, might be feeling a certain way, they didn't believe in that back in the day. It was just push through it and you'll make it kind of a deal. So, phew.
Yeah, I did a video on my channel talking about how a lot of killers have brain injuries and brain trauma, specifically to the frontal lobe, where all your decision making, your impulse control is. If they were abused, that definitely could have happened to them, which could have, affected those things. And this definitely is an impulse killing.
Yes.
So that definitely could be.
Yes. And what really, so they don't have any, they just said they were going to do the mass killings. They didn't have anything planned out for it. Okay.
They did.
Okay. They did?
These boys. Yes. And I'll get to that, like what they all had and everything.
Okay.
Actually coming up here in this paragraph. So for months, they had bought knives body
they
armor,
admired those police
helmets,
killers,
bullets,
and they looked up
guns to
like, the
carry
two
out
boys
their
that did the
attacks,
Columbine shooting, which a
and
lot of people,
many other things.
that
Which,
was like the big
when I
one.
first read that, I was
Um,
like, how are they getting this? They're like, one of them's 18, one of them's 16. They're just going in and buying all of this stuff and not raising any alarm bells.
Well, you also have to think about it too. It's like Indiana is a state where you can just go. You know, I mean, you can really go just buy anything. Like where Illinois, where I'm from, if you tried to go buy a gun, a lot of red flags would be raised. You know, my mother-in-law worked for like the state police doing background checks on people like that. You have to wait 2 days. Here in Indiana, you know, I can print up a fake gun card and just be like, yeah, give me a gun. How much is it? And I can take it out that day, you know, because I mean, one, we're conservative, and the two, people just like to go hunting and stuff, and nobody thinks anything about that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That was Oklahoma.
Yeah, and they didn't give a specific date or anything too, so it could be around deer season or a hunting season, and this guy is just like, I'm just glad to see those boys are in the nature, kind of a thing. So,
Yeah. Okay, so they also did video record some of the killings. And they set up a camera in the house, and they planned to release this footage online. This was vicious, and the fact that they wanted to release it, it's crazy. But it was planned. It was planned for many years, they said. Robert, the oldest and 18 at the time, planned to kill his family since he was 13. The pair openly talked about admiring mass murders together, and they talked about killing their family. Their sister Crystal, who survived the attack, said that she reported this to her mom. She was like, Mom, they're talking about murders. They're talking about killing us. And reportedly, the mother said that it's just boys being boys. Yeah, which just makes me mad to the highest level. For so many reasons, but she was just plainly ignoring what was happening, and justifying it, which makes me even more mad. But girls can be killers too, and I don't want to go on this whole rant about women empowerment in a reference to killers, but I mean, why is it that the boys have to be rough and tumble, you know? It's just, all of it just makes me mad.
While we're on this right here, I was listening to a case of a black serial killer. And out of all the cases I've listened to, he was the second one that I've ever heard of. But I was just like...
Was it Samuel Little?
No, it was his name was Antonio... I don't forget. Rodriguez or something. He was like he was a strangler down in... I wasn't listening. I had a lot of stuff going on today because I had to split the episode up. But yeah, he was down south somewhere, I think near Texas and everything. But he had a lot of stuff going on with him, and I was just like, this is like only the second black serial killer that I've heard of.
Right.
And I might have to. The first one, I think we've talked about on my show, and I might have to bring that up or send you that case because I thought that one is very good.
Yeah. I mean, we have a tendency to kind of stereotype what a serial killer or a killer is. And it's usually a white male. So, but we do see one-offs. You know, we have Eileen Wuornos, who is a woman. And then Samuel Little was actually one of the most notorious serial killers. And he was black. So, I mean, writing it off is not good.
Yes.
Writing this behavior off as, they're boys is even worse, in my opinion.
Yeah, and when, I don't know. I mean, maybe she didn't want to deal with it, but I don't know, man. If something that serious is happening, you got to figure that. I don't know. Just gotta nip that in the bud, or at least talk to him and say, "What's going on? Why are you having these thoughts? Why is this going on?" I don't know.
Right, and she might have had a lot to deal with too, because if she was being abused, maybe she was in survival mode,
Yes.
you know? And when her daughter came to her, she was like, I don't want to hear that, you know? I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And didn't think it was serious.
Yep.
And she was wrong, and that's super sad because it took out everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was getting ready to ask about the younger sister, but we'll probably get to that towards the.
Well, what's your question? Because I was going to get into the trial a little bit.
Okay.
So
do they know anything about the younger sister of what happened to her, 2-year-old?
Not much. There's 2 survivors, the one that was injured and the youngest, they don't really talk about. I feel like she might still be underage because 2018 is when this happened. So they don't release a lot of information about what happened. And I think she wasn't really, I don't know, like, she didn't witness anything. She didn't, you know. So I think they just kind of don't talk about her a lot.
Gotcha. That's crazy. Okay, the trial.
Yes. All right. So both boys pleaded not guilty and were tried as adults. Now, someone said the other day, why do these killers confess and then plead not guilty? And it's usually because their lawyers tell them to. Their representation is saying plead not guilty so that we can make deals, so that all of this, like, after, they're kind of saying, like, you could plead insanity, you can, you know, plead different things. So they always advise them to plead not guilty, even though they confessed. There's no way they're gonna get off of it.
Well, see, then, and I find out in most cases what happens? They say they're not guilty for so long, and then next thing you know, they're like, well, you know, say you confess and say that you're guilty, and then we'll give you a lesser charge. You know, it's what'll usually happen anyway. But I mean, in this particular case, like in most murders, it's like, okay, you kill one person, you can probably, you know, you might get not bail, but you'll get maybe parole. So, but in this case specifically, I mean, they killed, was it 5
or 6?
Yeah, 5 or 6 people in there. So, I mean, you talk about multiple life sentences, but I don't want to give anything away. Go ahead.
Yeah. I say 6 because, I mean, Crystal was a big victim in this. Like, her life changed forever, I'm sure. Even the 2-year-old did. But I think there was 5 that were killed and 1 that was injured, if I remember right.
Because, I mean, they'll have to get them on murder for everyone they killed. And then, since they had the attempt to kill the first daughter, of course, and then the intent to kill the infant. So, I mean, they're going to get attempt murder charges, which I don't know why. I think recently with a lot of episodes I've been hearing, attempted murder, they get like worse charges for attempted than if they actually do it. I didn't know if they
I don't know the details on that. What I have seen a lot is like survivor stories that I've heard. A lot of times they'll get like a couple years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I always sit there and I always say, like, why get lesser time when the victim has the will to survive? Like, you intended to kill that person.
Yeah.
They just survived.
Yep.
But I don't know. I haven't seen anywhere they've been like more. Usually if you have one murder, you get life or the death penalty in some cases.
And that's one thing that's kind of really that gets me every time, is that you have someone who tried to kill you. You go to the trial, you are a witness against them, and since you didn't die, they say 2 years, and then you get parole. And now you're talking about, you're like, hey, I'm still here, and you're going to release this guy? Like, he's probably not going to come after me again, but I don't know, you know, what if, like we said, a lot of serial killers are old white guys. So what if the lady he tried to kill, what if that's his type, you know? And a lot of these serial killers, they don't leave where they're from So if they get caught with an attempted murder, they're probably going to go back. I'm just saying. I just think it's stupid.
Yeah, I would be terrified.
Yes, I would.
That they were going to come to me next.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If I had a town, it would become a ghost town.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Robert changed his plea to guilty and accepted life in prison without parole in 2016. Michael, who was 16 at the time of killing, there was some debate over how he should be tried. We have gone over and over and over this in this country. They've changed numerous times this law where it's like, should someone underage, be tried as an adult?
Yes.
And the courts eventually decided to try him as an adult. And on May 11th, 2018, a jury found Michael guilty and recommended a life sentence without possibility of parole. Now, while in prison, Robert, who is the older, tried to hang himself with a sheet while in jail, and a guard caught him and cut him down, and they placed him on suicide watch. In March 2017, the Beaver family house, where all of this happened, caught fire in the middle of the night and completely burnt to the ground. They don't know what happened, but it was gone. It took them about an hour to get the fire under control. And like I said, police couldn't determine what happened. They turned the lot that the family house was at into a public park with memorials for the family.
And I was going to say, sometimes just certain things like that, they will, in that neighborhood, like, again, we don't know if it's like in the country or if it's in the neighborhood, but if it's like in a neighborhood, just that house will leave a mark on the neighbors and things like that. So somebody could have burnt it down, not wanting to, reminisce about what actually happened and stuff like that. So yeah, I can understand that. I knew they were going to plead guilty and probably get a life sentence. Now, this is not it's kind of related to the case, but I messaged you, I think last week, saying that there was a murder that happened a year ago, like a block up from me. And like you said earlier, he is underage, so they haven't released his name or anything about this guy. I've researched, I can't find his name anywhere. And that's what they're going through right now, is he was 15 at the time, and he's 16 now. And they're saying, what are we going to do? They're supposed to be actually having a trial here, I think this month. I don't know if it's passed or if it's coming up, but they're talking about they're trying to have this trial, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to try him. Is that the right word?
Yeah, it's weird to say.
Yeah, but basically what happened, what he did was there were some kids at a gas station, and he walked right up to the car and just started shooting. And he killed one young lady. She was only 15. And there is no motive behind it. And they're trying to figure out, actually there were two guys, but the person the boy who shot and killed the young lady, he's the one that's being tried, and the other guy, he's going to get a lesser defense, but I haven't even heard anything about him. They said that the police caught two guys in custody, but I didn't know what you thought about that, like with the age. If he was 15 when he committed the crime, now he's 16, should they try him for the time the crime happened? Because he's just held in the juvenile center right now for the past year. That's where he's been held. I don't know. Do you think he should be tried as a child or as an adult?
I definitely go back and forth. I think on a case-to-case basis, basically, which the laws don't work that way. Yeah. There was a boy who was very young that spent most of his life in prison, and now they're saying, oh, we made a mistake and let him go. And it's just it's hard for me because I feel like for someone this young, something had to have happened in their life to create that. And I feel bad for kid them.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad for their actions, but it's almost like, were they raised that way? Was, something happened? And with that one that you were talking about, like, there was no motive. He did it for nothing. It's almost like he needs to have some intense mental health services.
Yes. And
he's not going to get that in prison,
yeah,
unfortunately.
And there's I don't think there's any connection. Like, they didn't go to the same school or anything. Terre Haute is just crazy, by the way. So I just want to let people know that. And we're like the third in meth distribution here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in the country. So just a lot of crazy things that happen here. So it was just crazy to me because I just can't imagine that. I was kind of putting myself in her shoes because it's like, I'm just sitting at a gas station chilling. I pump gas all the time, and I'm leaving my kids and wife in the car, and just to have somebody walk up for no apparent reason and just shoot her dead. I don't know, but yeah, I was going back and forth with it because I was like, yeah, he was 15, he's a kid, but he did commit an adult murder. This is, well, I guess any murder is really adult, but I don't know. Like I said, he's supposed to be going to trial here pretty soon to figure out what's going on. So I guess I'll keep looking into it to see what happens here. So
yeah, I'm sorry I don't have a straight answer for you.
No.
It's just so hard for
know.
me. I wish that in our country we had better prison reform and mental health services and things that will allow kids who commit crimes to be rehabilitated. But unfortunately we don't. So then they're in the juvenile discipline system going into the big prisons where they're going to learn so much more violence and they're with these offenders who have done way worse.
Yep.
And their life's just going to be that now. There's no way that they're going to change.
Yep.
So it's just hard.
It's crazy. And I just feel, like you said, I do feel bad for the kid, him, because he's 15.
Yeah.
Didn't even know how to drive yet. And now he went to a juvenile detention center, and now he's probably going to jail for at least a life sentence or something, or with, going to jail without bail or parole. But I've even heard some cases where they kill people and then they get paroled out, and I'm like, what are you talking about? But yeah, this is is that all with that family there? Or
what was interesting to me is when I was researching about them burning down the house, this is so strange, but on Facebook there's a page that talks about property values of houses that murders were committed in. And it was so interesting to me to read, like, no one wants these houses. You might as well burn them down. And so this is crazy, but literally a couple houses down from me, there was a man who a guy killed him, shot him in the head over a fight with a woman. And the house just sits empty. Because when he died, they had no way of getting the, what's it called? Not the mortgage, but the paperwork for it to sell the house. The deed. The deed. And so they can't find the deed. They can't sell the house. But when it goes on market, is anybody going to want to buy it? It's so crazy because they were also talking about the house that the guy killed his wife recently. I wish I could remember his name, but the house just remains empty. Nobody wants it, and the property value is like a steal now. So it's just crazy to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've actually heard a lot of stuff like that where they've had the house, they've had the house sit there for a while, it burns down, or heck, they've even made it. I think there was one. What happened? They put the guy in the electric chair and they buried him on the property, and then put his tombstone there, and they were like, this is because I guess his murders had such an impact on the community that it was kind of one of those things where there he is kind of a thing,
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear stuff like that all the time. It's like, this house, they give the address to the house and no one has lived there since, kind of a deal. And it's like, well,
Would you buy a house that someone was murdered in?
I don't know.
Do you believe in spirits coming back?
Yeah, and black people are superstitious too, so I don't know. Like, because I don't know. It's really, really weird stuff like that. Because anything that would happen, the wind would blow.
Right.
I mean, even in this big old clunky house I'm in now, it's like nobody's died in here that I know of.
You know of.
Yeah. So, we hear stuff and I'm just like, what's that? I don't think I would. If they told me that, I don't care how cheap it was. I don't think I'd be able to move in it, especially like this particular case. I don't think I'd be able to do it. I would be sitting there thinking, what room was it in? Is this the room? Oh my gosh, it would be just crazy. I'd be doing like some supernatural stuff, putting salt and stuff by the doorways and stuff like that, and on the windowsills.
Yeah.
I'll have like holy water with the crucifix.
Yeah, I think because even if you don't believe, you're going to make it up in your head. You're going to see something, regardless.
Yep. And maybe that's what we should do, like do a Halloween, like for Halloween, do some episodes like that, some spooky stuff like that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I could find some. I mean, we've already got a Halloween theme song.
Yeah. Okay, well, that is the story of the Broken Arrow murders.
Sarah's coming back here with another episode. Hey guys, one more time. You'll have to say that one more time. I'm sorry, Sarah, at the end, right quick.
That's fine. No, you can do it after you're finished. That's fine.
Okay. Well, we had another great story by Sarah. I was interested in it. You guys, like I said, as I will always say, hopefully once I get a little script here, you guys should definitely go and do your own research with these. And with this one, it's not a mystery, but it's always still good to go back and just, look at the stories. And because, like I said, I find them all very interesting and everything. So, hey, Sarah, can you tell us one more time where we can find everything? And don't forget YouTube.
Okay, so first, find me on YouTube.
Yep.
At Code 187. I also post other videos on there. On Instagram, which there's going to be some interesting pictures along with this case. These boys took pictures like after they were bloody and stuff, so I will post that. Twitter and TikTok and Facebook at Code 187.
Super easy to remember. I'm Joe.
And I am Sarah.
We will see you guys later on Code 187.
Hi guys, I just wanted to say I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like any of the content for Code 187, please click that subscribe button, that like button, that share button. Help us out, help us grow. You can find us on your favorite podcast platforms. yeah, check us out on there. Give us some ratings. Tell us what you think. We're also across every social media on Code 187. So we're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I think that's it. And of course, YouTube. So please, please, please subscribe if you like our content and spread the word. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.